In Nigeria, there is something known as omugwo. It's simply when the mother of the new parents spends days, weeks, or months to help out with the new baby. These loving and helpful grandmas that we are totally grateful for don't only come with bags full of clothes, but they also come with bags full of cultural or traditional practices that can cause harm on the child's health. This isn't to insult anyone's culture or tradition. This is simply for the purpose of enlightenment. If you do your research well, you'd find out that many of such practices came about in the age where no one was conducting research on the development of babies and how to actually care for them. But it's different from our world today. Presently, thousands and thousands of research has been conducted on the development and care of babies, and it's really up to you to embrace the new or stick to the old. Now let's dive into one of the practices that our loving and thoughtful grandmas may engage in for good purposes but can pose harm on your child's health. And that practice will be the act of molding the head of a newborn. During a head first birth, pressure on the head caused by a tight birth canal can mold a baby's head into an oblong shape instead of a round shape. The birth canal is such a tight space. You have to be 10 centimeters dilated before you can push your baby out, but the head of a newborn is usually within 13 centimeters, so it has to literally squeeze and come out. So that's why their heads come out looking so funny. Out of love and concern, our lovely grandmas take a cloth and soak it in hot water to mold the head of newborn babies. All good intentions, but that is not how it works. Really good intentions, but applying pressure on their heads and choosing the shape that we want it to look like can increase pressure in their skull and eventually lead to brain damage. You can cause a fatal injury in the process because it's not clay you're molding. It's someone's head that contains blood vessels, a brain, skull, and other elements that should not be messed with. Plus, the molding is actually unnecessary. A baby may have a cone-shaped head for a few days to a couple of weeks before their skull takes the normal rounded shape. In other words, your baby's body was designed in such a way that everything returns to normal after birth, including their heads. This is possible because the bones in a newborn's skull aren't fully formed. So as they progress day after day, their skulls begin to form, and eventually it'll be that round and beautiful shape that our grandmas were trying to get by molding their heads. There are definitely some things that you can do to help in this process. So instead of head molding, reduce the amount of time that your newborn spends on their back. In the first place, our grandmas can mold their heads because it's actually really malleable. So that means that pressure applied to their heads will actually mold it to a certain shape. So by reducing the amount of time they spend on their back, you reduce the likelihood of their heads remaining in that shape. You can try tummy time by placing your baby on your chest or laying them on the floor tummy down. Do this for a few minutes every day, and this not only takes the pressure off their heads, but it also strengthens their neck, arm, and shoulder muscles, which is necessary for them to achieve developmental milestones like crawling, turning their neck side to side, holding their heads up by themselves, and even walking. It's advised that babies sleep on their back. Therefore, it's important that you alternate their sleeping position. So if you place your baby's head towards the left, the next time you want to place your baby's head towards the right. That way your baby's head gets to be evenly molded. You can also utilize baby wraps. This way your baby also takes a break from their back. If babies spend too much time in one position, they are at risk for conditions like flat head syndrome and brachycephaly, which usually require a helmet for treatment. In summary, there's no need to mold the head of a newborn, as their heads will naturally become beautifully shaped. You can help by limiting the amount of time they spend on their back, and if you follow the measures talked about, you'll have a baby with a beautifully shaped head. All love to our grandmas.